On Story is brought to you in part by the Alice Kleberg Reynolds Foundation, a Texas family providing innovative funding since 1979. On Story is also brought to you in part by the Bogle Family Vineyards, 6th-generation farmers and 3rd-generation winemakers based in Clarksburg, California. Makers of sustainably grown wines that are a reflection of their family values since 1968. From Austin Film Festival, this is On Story, a look inside the creative process from today's leading writers, creators, and filmmakers. This week on Story, writer-producer Tony Rettenmaier and director Juel Taylor discuss their genre-bending debut feature, They Cloned Tyrone, and how the writer-director duo seamlessly incorporated socio-political commentary into their science fiction comedy mystery film.
Character-wise, we started with Fontaine, and then we had like the hear no evil, see no evil. We kind of tried to give them all different angles on that theme of like blame and responsibility. So one person sees the problem, ignores the problem, or, like an ostrich puts his head in the sand. One person sees the problem, doesn't care about the problem. One person sees the problem, wants somebody else to fix the problem. All three characters, we thought of them like kind of holistically relative to like the theme.
So They Cloned Tyrone. So you all were already kind of working together and writing. Where did that idea start?
I had the idea for a while before we ever did anything with it. I was in a fellowship when we graduated, and I think the idea kind of kicked it around right around then. Very loose, bootleg Scooby-Doo idea, where it was really just that premise of the walk into a bar, a pimp, a drug dealer, walk into a bar kind of situation. I wanted to make a detective movie where the detectives had no detective skills.
Like this always happens to my girl Nancy.
Stop with that cartoon.
I'm telling you, hear me out. Sis be coming across some weird, kinky that don't make no sense. But in the end, it always turns out to be some regular missionary position. Vanilla, hey, where the you going? Wait. No. I ain't got time for this. I'm going back. Okay, look, somebody is with you, okay? You want to know why? You want to know who cool, but the block is hotter than a fresh perm right now, so whoever it is, they probably looking for us as we speak. So you go back out there, you liable to lead them back to us. Me, and I ain't getting probed for nan, okay? So, I just need you to chill, just chill. Look, you can stay here for the night, and tomorrow, Dexter's lab will be there. And we will go find out what that missionary position is, just like my girl Nancy. I promise. I promise.
And then people seemed to like the elevator pitch at the fellowship, so it was kind of a year-long fellowship I had. And so people would just ask about, hey, what's up with the Reagan-era movie? It was called Reagan-era. It's supposed to be like a period piece. And people kept asking about it. And then once I got out of fellowship, we had a friend who actually optioned this. The first thing we ever optioned to somebody, the dude ended up leaving that company and going to Columbia. And so he was like, hey, man, what's up with the Reagan era? And then the joke title was They Cloned Tyrone. I was like, it's kind of stupid. Ain't nobody going to take it seriously. And then we kind of realized no one should take it seriously. And so then we ultimately changed it. And then from there, the theme kind of bled its way into it because I had a friend of mine who I grew up with. I'll condense his story, but basically something really bad happened to him my freshman year of college, but he was a football player, and something that was kind of outside his control ended up to him losing his scholarship, and he got arrested and derailed his years, you know what I mean? And I was frustrated with him because he was super smart, he was super talented. I had ended up linking up with him one New Year's. This is almost 10 years after our freshman year of college, but this much distance from it, and just finally having this conversation with him and just kind of talking to him. Somehow these two things just coalesced, and that's how Fontaine's story kind of started to come in, this question of blame versus responsibility. And like that, once we kind of talked about it a little bit, and once this exec had, kind of put our feet to the fire to pitch it, I think that's when we started really sitting down and putting that theme with this very goofy, dumb story.
We went in to pitch a rewrite for Last Dragon and didn't get it. But when we were there, that exec who we knew said like, oh, like come in, if you have that other idea, you can come in a week, I'll set up a meeting, we can pitch it. So we didn't have anything but like the loose idea, but like the fact that we had to come in a week, like, put our feet to the fire. And so for that week, we just like basically beat it out, the whole story, and put it on like note cards, like very like arts and crafts, put it on a poster board and went in and pitched it at the end of the week. So it was very useful to have like a kind of a hard and fast like thing you had to get to doing.
Cause it don't matter how bad your life is. It don't matter how to get a victory. It don't matter. You got a light bill due. It don't matter. And you got a gas bill too. It grandson Jamal was gunned down in a drive-by shooting right next to the Dairy Queen. Trust in his vision. Trust. Say it with me. Trust. Trust.
Process-wise, like with pretty much everything, we make a playlist. So like most of the songs that end up in Tyrone, the needle drops just came from the playlist that we conceptualize everything. Usually we find a song that feels the way you want the movie to feel. Like we just got SOS Band and we thinking about people coming out of the club and it ends up in the movie. And most of it doesn't, but like usually those first gut images that we talk about are like things that like intrinsically make us excited about it in the first place.
And it sounds like from the pitch, it really started with those three main characters. Can you talk a little bit, you talked about Fontaine, but can you talk a little bit more about developing like Charles and Yo-Yo for the story?
Juel said he went to art school, and he had, when we were talking about the characters, he said something that I'd never heard, but I guess it's a term in art or something, like the silhouette test. And the idea that, like, if you see a silhouette of Darth Vader, you can identify Darth Vader or Indiana Jones or stuff. And so we talked about, like, the characters should not only be, like, visually distinct that you can identify them from a silhouette, but, like, sort of archetypal enough that you can identify them holistically, like, from a silhouette. So that's kind of where it started.
Character-wise, we started with Fontaine and then just kind of, we had like the hear no evil, see no evil. We kind of tried to give them all different angles on that theme of like blame and responsibility. So one person sees the problem, ignores the problem, or, like an ostrich puts his head in the sand. One person sees the problem, doesn't care about the problem. One person sees the problem, wants somebody else to fix the problem initially, So it's like Yo-Yo, like, we got to go get help. We got to tell somebody. It's like Charles, like, stick our head in the sand, act like we never seen this and then Fontaine understands the problem but just doesn't care.
I can't get no tea?
I ain't your mama. And my grandmama got ears like a bat, so y'all mind y'all manner.
Listen. Say we act like a turkey, stick our head in his hand, and leave this shit alone, act like it didn't happen.
Like an ostrich? You stupid. I don't know how I let y'all
Like I
drag
tell
me
you,
into this.
It smell like fish. Get the the water. And right now, we's a goddamn sushi bar.
That wasn't me.
Hmm?
I don't know what that was, but that wasn't me.
What? That wasn't you.
No one said it was.
I'm me. I seen him shoot your
All three characters, we once we were thinking about it, working backwards from like Fontaine's character, I think we just thought of them like kind of holistically relative to like the theme, right? And so like, or just this thematic question that we was kind of playing with. Building out from Fontaine, I think we just really just tried to make them as distinct as we could. But like, I think a lot of my sisters and Yo-Yo, like you naturally draw from people that a lot of the characters were being drawn from just like people that I know. And then a lot of it changes. A lot of the character stuff changed when we cast it. So like the way Fontaine was originally written, he was really stoic, you know what I'm saying? And our person we originally cast brought a lot of warmth in the audition. It was like, oh man, like, you know, he was a lot funnier than we originally wrote the character. So we never went back to like the original very, you know, think like Trevante and Moonlight, like very stoic, quiet kind of character. Like a lot more genuinely menacing in the original script. Like he was more of the archetype in the original script.
You better stop. Man, give me that. Remind me of someone, you know that?
Who? You remind me of someone.
Who?
And I think he became a bit more, we leaned more into like the drift between like how they program them and how they actually manifest themselves in the world, because like he's clearly not the archetypal drug dealer, you know, but in the original draft he was.
And then specifically with Slick Charles, like we thought we wrote like funny lines for him, but like Jamie would just like ad-lib a ton of stuff, and it's like, this is better. So there was just like he added like a lot of like his own characterization and his own like, you know, slick talking lines and stuff.
I love the moment where they're getting lunch and Slick Charles starts looking around at everyone laughing, and he's like, oh no. And he's putting the pieces together.
I've never seen him laugh. I've never seen you laugh. Yeah, I ain't seen him laugh once.
Chicken. It's chicken. The powder. The powder in the chicken. Look, when I was in the trap house, there was some white powder right there. I thought it was cocaine. I took some of it. It wasn't cocaine. I started laughing. You break some. I shoot it. Now we here. We eat this chicken. We all laughing. It's in chicken.
How did you all kind of in the writing process decide how aware the characters were going to be and when they were going to be aware of the situation they were in?
Sort of our comps were things like They Live and Truman Show, where a big part of those stories are the characters kind of like opening their eyes. It was sort of like structurally we wanted it to happen. Basically, the midpoint of the movie is when everyone realized, or Slick Charles and Fontaine realized they're clones. So it's sort of like we built their realization of what the conspiracy is into like the structure of the movie and kind of structured everything around their own revelations.
Our kind of fun and games was like the awakening, quote unquote, is like the characters like becoming aware in terms of the surface plot was like part one, and then the second half of the script is the characters coming aware of the why. And so I think like more of the fun, like offensive part of the movie, you know, and maybe not fun, maybe just offensive part of the movie is in the first half. And we tried to hide it, but it's like a pretty basic formula structure, you know, because we originally pitched it like so quick, we just kind of had to really try to take a structure and like kind of lean into it.
There's supposed to be a meta reason for why certain like pillars of the community were clones, and why all the clones were almost these like outdated stereotypes. And it's supposed to be because this program started in the 60s by a whole bunch of white people, and so they're all supposed to be reflections of what white people think these pillars are in the black community.
You can feel beautiful. I can feel beautiful. You can feel beautiful. I can feel beautiful. I don't wanna get over. I got the sweetest hangover. Yeah.
We did that because like we wanted, you know, the theme is sort of what Juel mentioned, this like blame versus responsibility and stuff. So we wanted the actual like trio characters to be like a mix of that. You know, like Fontaine and Slick Charles have the like existential crisis to realizing that they are like, they were created and they were set upon this path. Yo-Yo's existential crisis is that like it is more, it's supposed to be more blurry. The same way that Fontaine and Slick Charles had to deal with being a clone, she had to deal with not being a clone.
Something that I'll never forget from the marking of the film is, I think it's the second elevator scene when they're singing as they're going down.
I'm going down to the underground. Hope don't drown. Get
Right now, let a mother try me. Ooh, he gon' die beside me. I don't know why. Why?
But watching the film, we have three kind of elevator scenes. We have that first moment where they don't know what they're about to see. You have that second moment where they're kind of prepared for what they're going to see, but not fully because they're about to have that realization of, you know, the clones. And then you have the third elevator moment where the whole hood is going down and is going to, you know, cause some great chaos. Can you talk about making those specifically?
I mean, we wanted to try our hand at building in a little bit of iconography, like within the movie. It was originally a staircase, like the book he finds, the Nancy Drew. It was originally a hidden staircase, like the Nancy Drew book he finds in Yo-Yo's room. The logistics of that, the production logistics of that, we changed it to an elevator, which I think ended up like making more, you know, it definitely made more sense. But, you know, I think like the kind of triptych of elevator down, it wouldn't have had the same effect if it was stairs, elevator. So I want to take credit for it, you know what I'm saying, in terms of like, oh man, so we in the first journey, like it is different points of the journey in terms of just like going underground 3 times. So I think more to the elevator is just like the first time they go in blind.
The elevator is.
See what I'm saying? It's too crazy. Don't make Fontaine. Fontaine, what you doing? Fontaine, get your out that goddamn elevator. You know what? You have it your way. All right, Yo-Yo, I need you to get your mother car right now.
15 minutes.
Slick, it's an elevator in a goddamn trap house. That'll make your spider senses tingle. Slick, come on. Man, come on.
Puffing at me.
And the second time, like, you know, they go in, you know, aware, and the third time they go in ready.
Excuse me, kind sir. But if you could pour me to the elevator that leads down to the freaky laboratory, I'd be out your atmosphere.
Oh, I got you, big dog. Oh! Right over there.
Okay, we're here.
Open this up. Open up all the surface doors. Hurry up! Ah! Well, let's get it, man.
You know what I mean? I think that was kind of just the general idea of the 3 times they go underground. And I think that just, I guess, manifested itself in like those 3 elevator beats.
I love that Yo-Yo has just stacks of Nancy Drew books, and it's so specific. But also, I think in a part of the film in which so many aspects kind of in their community seem stereotypical, that's the one thing that really jumps out, especially like Nancy Drew books, they're bright yellow books.
So that's just like ripped straight from my sister's room.
I love just like the specificity in this film. It makes it such an enjoyable watch, but it also just makes it so funny.
Film's great because like every department's trying to tell the story in their own way, in their own set of tools. I remember like the first set that was built was Slick Charles's hotel room or motel room, and so they built it on a stage and everything. And I remember like going in there, and the art department had like basically made the trash specific to Slick Charles, you know? And like we were never gonna look in the trash can. It was never in the shot list or anything. But the fact that like they were trying to tell the story within their own tools was really cool and like very inspiring. I think we can take credit for some of the like more story-oriented details, like the Nancy Drew books and stuff. But a lot of the details of the world came from the department heads too.
Mama, please open the door.
I'm good, thanks, baby.
I just need to see you. You open the door, please? Open the door. Open it!
My mom wanted to know if he was single, but if we can always, get back to that. Yeah, at the time of the incident, we were still dating, and while we were hanging out, he started getting all types of text messages from somebody. So I asked, like, who's texting you? Because there wasn't no one, just Reggie down at the job. But Joanna,
I really need you right now, Mom.
so no one from the job makes you all smiley face in a text message. So, let's wait it.
I'm all right, baby. Josephine had a fish fry at the community center. I'm still full.
I also, especially on a rewatch, was thinking a lot about Fontaine's mom, who turns out to be a tape recorder.
My mama.
That was your mother? Can you talk a little bit about that discovery?
I think it's really fun to make something like kind of absurd, but then the emotion kind of like sneaks up on you, right? Because it's a very like, I mean, Tyrone's like kind of like a wacky story. The characters are kind of wacky, they're like purposely like hyperbolic and stuff. But we wanted it to like tread into this area where it gets really emotional. You do really feel for them. And that was sort of like the kickoff point for it. We thought like if you could get to that point and actually really feel like for him, then it would have been successful.
I think it goes back to like the reverse engineering of, once we had this idea of blame versus responsibility, then you kind of start working backwards. So it's like, okay, what if you had a guy having a literal identity crisis where he could legitimately make the argument that like, none of this is my fault. If I put a gun to the back of your head and told you go kill somebody and you did it, is it your fault? Where's the logical end of the road of that character? And you end up with like O.G. Fontaine. It doesn't take long to go like, well, he can't have a mama, And then once you realize like he's a clone, then you realize you don't have a mama, then you're like, okay, well, like, what's the worst thing that can happen to somebody? Like, what we're just thinking of, like, what are the worst things we can put him through? How can we keep taking from him? And that's all we're thinking about, like, when we're writing, like, what can we keep taking from Fontaine to the point where he has nothing, he truly is a blank slate, has to decide who he wants to be, and so you take his job from him, you take his life from him, and then, okay, well, what's worse than that? Okay, you take your mama from you.
You've been watching On the Making of They Cloned Tyrone on Story. On Story is part of a growing number of programs in Austin Film Festival's On Story project that also includes the On Story radio program, podcast, book series, and the On Story archive, accessible through the Whitliff Collections at Texas State University. To find out more about On Story and Austin Film Festival, visit onstory.tv or austinfilmfestival.com.